Hey Jake with B&H, I'm here with Ryan from Rode, and we have an impressive new product here from Rode. This is the RØDECaster Pro 2. This is what we call an all-in-one audio solution. Ryan, what was the motivation behind this here?
So a lot of people will be familiar with the original RØDECaster Pro,
Yes.
which was the world's first fully integrated podcast production console that brought, Bluetooth connectivity, microphones, audio interfaces, everything into one. And the RØDECaster Pro original found a home in so many different kinds of productions far beyond podcasting. So the RØDECaster Pro 2, we rethought the entire concept from the ground up and created what we know is the greatest product for all forms of content creators that you've ever seen. And I'm going to take you through everything that it can do. Completely customizable and perfect for everyone from musicians to streamers to gamers to people setting up business comms to live events. And of course, it's the best podcasting product as well.
Let's get into it.
It's got some amazing digital features, but starting just with the preamps, we went to combo jack inputs so they can accept mic, line, or instrument, so that you can use it for all sorts of different applications, from podcasting like this to recording music to doing anything you like. One of the amazing things with the RØDECaster Pro 2 is that we completely redesigned the preamp from the ground up. This is the Rode Revolution preamp, which is incredibly quiet, yet also has amazing high levels of gain. So it approaches the measurement limit for how quiet you can make a preamp. It's negative 131.5 dBV. Wow. About a dB and a half quieter than that is the theoretical limit to how quiet you could make a preamp. So when you're plugging in a low sensitivity dynamic microphone, for instance, you don't have a whole bunch of hiss in your signal that you often get with a lot of preamps.
Okay.
You also have 76 decibels worth of gain available that you can turn all the way up. So even the lowest sensitivity sources, you can get plenty of gain out of, and it'll be super clean.
And so there's really no need for what you call a cloud lifter.
Sure,
sense,
yeah.
Right?
There's like a bunch of different versions, the Fedhead, the cloud lifter, a lot of different line boosters out there that people will use with low sensitivity dynamic mics to try to boost their signal. And something we wanted with the RØDECaster Pro 2 was to have a preamp that was so good that not only do you not need a line booster, you will actively degrade the signal by plugging one in. It's cleaner than the best line boosters out there.
Wow, very impressive stuff. Now let's move on to, I think, really the main highlight of this is that the customization is endless for creation. So walk me through all the customization you have in this new product.
Sure. So with the RØDECaster Pro 2, we at Rode, we always listen to our customers, and one of the things that we had requested a lot with the original version was something a little bit more compact. A lot of podcasts are running 4 microphones plus external sources and calls, but there's a lot of podcasts out there and other applications for the original RØDECaster where people only use 1 or 2 microphones and then they have a bunch of other sources.
Sure.
So what makes the RØDECaster Pro 2 really amazing is the fact that you can completely customize this interface however you like. The first way that you can do that is with all of your RGB LEDs and your different controls. But what makes it really amazing is the fact that I can just tap on any one of these channels and I can reassign what source is being controlled by the fader. So for instance, I can go on to channel 2 here, I've got set up as a guitar or a instrument input source. I can switch that to a line input source or a microphone if I like. But what I can also do is, instead of having one of our actual combo jack inputs on fader 2, I might just tap on that button and say, I want to have my USB return on fader 2. Tick the button, suddenly I've just changed the mixer entirely. I can go into a menu here and to my fader assignments, and I can just drag and drop to reassign faders. So I might have USB 1, USB 2, my Bluetooth channel, and now this is already in like 5 seconds, it's a different mixer than what we started out with.
That drag and drop thing is really cool, like really easy to just, and so intuitive, the touch screen. I want to mention, this is a 5.5 inch LCD touchscreen, right?
It is, yeah, so it's a HDR touchscreen with haptic feedback as well.
Haptic feedback, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice, so you can know you made a decision.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. It
Yeah,
gives
so
you that confidence, yeah.
That's right, and when you're kind of making adjustments, like say turning things on, turning things off, then you'll get that haptic feedback. It's not all the time while you're using the screen, but it's just for those contextual controls, which makes it really a breeze to use, especially when you're working fast and on the fly.
Awesome. And not only that, but you also have this little rotary knob here as well to help make like really fine-tune adjustments.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So for instance, if I go into my channel settings and I can have a look at the gain level on this pod mic here, and what I can do is I can either tap to adjust the gain, or I can just simply roll the wheel here and get exact gain adjustments. And the same deal when I go to my different processing options. So I can go into my simple processing mode here, and the contextual rotary will always light up green on the screen to match, the little
that's
halo
a nice
LED around the
indicator.
rotary.
Yeah, okay.
And then so I can, adjust my DSP settings here, up or down, and straight away you can see how easy that is. And then I tap it to finish the setting, and it goes back to the standard kind of page.
Perfect.
If I am on the home screen, the rotary controls the speaker outputs. And if I tap on any other source, for instance, when we talk about customizability, we also have, we've got our 6 physical faders.
Right.
But there's loads of different inputs available on this. So we even have virtual faders. So right next to those physical faders, you can see all the lights here. My smart pads are on, fader 6.
Okay.
But then I have other sources that I might not be adjusting all the time that I can tap on the screen and adjust them with the rotary. So you have actually far more channels than what is physically controlled by the faders as well.
Tons of options and customizations. Yeah, that's really, really neat. And you also have, so you have 4 inputs. So that means you also have 4 headphone inputs as well, with each their own individual volume control.
Yeah. So what you can see here with the halo LEDs around the outside, we got them all color coded. They actually match the Rode channel colors, so you can get various different channel identification cables for the NTH100 headphones, for instance.
Okay.
So that you can identify all your different channels. We have a set of ID rings for XLR cables, so the XLR ID rings.
Oh, that's neat.
It makes
Okay.
it so easy when you're setting up a
absolutely.
shoot.
That's cable management is crucial.
That's it. And the nice thing about those headphone outputs is that they are completely discretely amped, and they have discrete signals going into them, which means some of the functions that we'll get into in a little while, you can send pretty much a different source from the unit into the headphones. So if we want to, for instance, be able to communicate from the host channel specifically to the headphones on the person that's plugged into number 4 without the other guests hearing it, we can do that as well, because they are receiving a discrete mix.
So these new pads are not just touch pads, they're also smart pads. What can you tell me about these?
Sure, yeah. So with the original RØDECaster Pro, we had sounds available on the side of the unit so that you could play back your intros, outros, things like that.
Right.
With the RØDECaster Pro 2, these are now smart pads, which give you the access to be able to play back sounds and record sounds to the pads, but also mixer actions, so you can control things on the unit, like global fade-ins, fade-outs. MIDI controls, so that you can control things downstream, maybe like OBS switching, things like that. And even voice effects. So we have a whole host of different voice effects available that you can trigger from the smart pads. And you can see at the bottom of the smart pads, you can cycle through pages and pages of different setups.
Like endless amounts of pages.
Yeah, I mean,
these things, right?
That's it. So just like when you have like apps on your smartphone, it will always open up a blank set of pads on the final page, and then it'll skip back to the start. So at the moment we have 4 available. Out of the box, you can stack up to 8, but the hardware itself is not limited at all. So we can endlessly customize that.
Absolutely. All right, I want to move back to the back here again of the unit and talk about these, because you have 2 USB-C ports. Tell me the motivation behind these.
Sure. So with the RØDECaster Pro 2, we have some never before seen digital connectivity on this unit for anything like this. Something that's really amazing is that first of all, we've moved to USB-C power for the unit.
Right, yes.
So you'll see there's 3 USB-C.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got 3 USB-C ports on the back. The first one is dedicated for power. You can use a standard power bank to be able to power it out on the road. Otherwise, it comes with a really nice power supply. Next to that, we have 2 separate USB-C ports. These are able to connect to 2 computers at the same time.
Right.
So for anyone that's in the gaming, streaming space, or live streaming of any sort, where you might want to have a dedicated computer for gaming performance,
That's right.
and a separate computer to handle your live stream. We've got a lot of people at Rode that are gaming and streaming all the time, and one of the biggest challenges is how do you get your audio into both computers and back into the unit?
Right.
With the RØDECaster Pro 2, it has discrete audio interfaces, so you can literally connect two computers at once, straight over USB, and have the audio coming straight back into the unit and send your mix over to both.
That's great.
So that makes it super, super flexible.
It's such a versatile, yeah. I mean, not just for podcasters, but for gaming. Are you a streamer?
Oh, I don't stream yet, but I might be persuaded now that I've got the RØDECaster Pro 2. We do some product live streams and things like that with Rode, and we use the RØDECaster Pro for all of that.
Fantastic.
So the other thing you can do with the USB is device hosting and SSD hosting.
Okay.
So for instance, I have a Samsung T7 SSD right now, and you can see on the screen here, if I tap, I've got my micro SD,
Yep,
and I also
that.
have an SSD plugged in, and I can record straight to the SSD. If I just hit that record button, now we're recording onto an SSD that's just connected over USB.
Right.
Another thing I can do with the USBs is plug in a smartphone. So for instance, if I want to plug in an Android or an iOS device,
Right.
it is fully MFI certified, so it is natively compatible with an iPhone, for instance. So there's two ways you can use it. One is if you want to make calls to people and bring them into your show, you simply connect it up with a Lightning accessory cable. Rode has one called the SC19.
Okay.
We have a couple of other shorter ones in the range. Important to note is that it's not a charge and sync cable that comes with your device. Apple has two different forms of cable that need to be MFI certified. Okay. One is the one that you can charge and sync your phone. The other is a Lightning accessory cable. There's a few different manufacturers. Rode has one called the SC19.
So Lightning accessory cable is what you need to make this work.
Yes. And what that does is it means that if I plug that in, I can connect up my iPhone, for instance, and straight away it will bring up the audio onto my USB 2 channel. So I can then play music through the device, I can make phone calls, but the other amazing thing which you touched on is that if I wanted to use this to do a full live stream, so for instance you want to do a video podcast or something like that and actually stream it out, you have the full mix going straight into any app that you want to use on your smartphone. You don't need a proprietary app. You can literally open the standard camera app. You could stream it, online using any of the different social media apps. With a fully produced mix, just like that. Plug the cable in.
Thinking about a lot of musicians who are trying to grow on social media, they could potentially do a whole show using this, plugging in all their instruments and stuff, and then just send it out to all their followers. That's pretty amazing.
So whether you're a DJ, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a gamer, whether you're doing cocktail hour, and live streaming it, whatever you're doing.
There's a Twitch channel for everybody.
There's literally a Twitch channel for everyone. You can do all of that literally by, there's so many different ways. You can, for one, you can track your whole show to an SSD and to the internal micro SD. You can send out multi-channel audio via one of the USB ports. You can then also connect up your smartphone and stream it live. Like any situation you can conceive, you can do with the RØDECaster Pro 2.
Absolutely. Really easy to, if you don't want it on a table, on the back, there's actually two ways of mounting, right?
Yeah, there are. So on the bottom of the unit, I'm just going to lift that up so people can see.
There we go.
We have a standard VESA mount adapter on the bottom, as well as a 3/8" thread. So the VESA mount system is basically your studio arms and all that kind of stuff, like your studio monitor arms. So you can mount the RØDECaster Pro on that and get it off your desk. Something that all of the guys at Rode are always trying to do is maximize desk space.
Desk space is very valuable.
It is.
Understand, Ryan? It's very valuable these days.
If you could put a price on that real estate on the corner of your desk, that's some some highly valuable space. So we wanted people to be able to get it up off the desk. There is a Rode swivel mount adapter available as well, so that you can pop it onto a stand. That makes it amazing for, even at a recent Rode event, we had the RØDECaster Pro 2 with a musician, a singer-songwriter. They had their guitar set up, plugged into the unit, and they could stand up right next to the RØDECaster Pro 2, and they could have the main mix going out. It has full DSP control, something that I could show you actually, really simple to set up. So when you go into your different channel settings, I'm on a microphone channel here, and I have these very simple controls for depth, sparkle, or punch. And what that is actually controlling a whole host of different dynamics controls in the back end, and EQ and the Aphex Aural Exciter, a really amazing processor that we've got internally on there. Basically, I can go from those very simple controls straight into advanced processing where I have everything.
There it is,
You
yep.
know, granular control of a compressor, a de-esser, noise gating, a high-pass filter, EQ, a full parametric EQ, the Aphex oral exciter and big bottom, panning. Every single channel can be panned left or right. You know, even though you have, you know, the various input sources coming in, any source can be a stereo channel and pan.
Absolutely. I mean, it looks complicated, Ryan, but you guys at Rode, you want to make things as simple to use as possible. So anyone who might be intimidated by this, I don't think you should be. Like, tell me how easy it is to set up. Like, say you just had one mic.
Yep.
How easy it is to set this up and just start recording.
It's incredibly simple.
Yeah.
You turn it on and it takes you through a setup assistant where it will literally ask you to turn the headphones down, get the levels set right, play some sounds for you so that you can get a comfortable level. And then it walks you through the entire process. There's even QR codes you can scan to be able to learn, you know, from the Rode.
I see one right here.
Videos. Yeah, I mean, even on top of the unit, you can scan that QR code and you'll be taken to the RØDECaster Pro 2 Learning Hub where you can learn how to use the entire unit. It is super powerful, but it's incredibly intuitive and incredibly simple to use.
Yeah, so, you know, we always ask the question, like, who is it for, right, here at B&H? So, you know, I really think, I mean, listening to you talk, it's almost for anybody who wants to use it. But, you know, from Rode, who do you think this is for?
This is for content creators. The thing that we found with the original RØDECaster Pro was that even though it was originally conceived as a podcasting console, we, through dozens of different firmware updates, talking to hundreds of thousands of different people out there for what they actually wanted out of a console, we learned a lot about the applications, and RØDECaster Pros found themselves on live streams, on podcasts, in music studios, everything. And we wanted to rethink it with the RØDECaster Pro 2 and make something that really was suitable for any content creator. And to do that, it has to be customizable. You can't just have, you know, the same layout for everybody.
Right.
So when I say content creators, I'm talking musicians, I'm talking podcasters, I'm talking gamers and live streamers.
Right.
I'm talking live events. You know, if you're doing panel talks, this is the greatest thing to use for a panel talk because you can literally send a different mix out over the headphones to be able to communicate with people with in-ears, for instance.
And isn't there great for live shows because there's Bluetooth connectivity, right? So you can send a monitor essentially to or even to the Bluetooth headphones to a producer who needs to listen.
Sure,
right?
yeah. So this is another amazing thing about the RØDECaster Pro 2 is the fact that you have your various input sources. So you've got your analog inputs here, you have digital inputs, you know, over USB. So you have your separate computers that can come in. You have the ability to run a mix minus on a separate chat interface. Even on just one of those computers, you can have multi-channel audio as well as a separate chat for like Zoom and Teams and those kind of calls.
Wow.
But what you can also do, if I jump onto the Bluetooth channel here, I can send audio from my smartphone or a tablet or anything like that to the unit with a mix minus for phone calls, but I can also pair a Bluetooth speaker as an output. So you can actually host an input source or you can host an output source. When you do that, you can see that this little rotary here currently is controlling the main output level via the speaker/line outs here. What happens when I pair up a Bluetooth speaker is it just pops up next to that and then I can control that level. So you can literally set it up as a Bluetooth output source as well. So whether you're going to just a simple little, you know, Bluetooth speaker, whether you're connecting to an in-house system over Bluetooth, there's a lot of conference rooms, for instance, that will have Bluetooth input, or whether you just want to send it to a pair of headphones for the producer behind the camera, you can do all of that.
All right, now let's do a deep dive into these smart pads because I know that we've barely scratched the surface of what they're capable of. So Ryan, take it away. How much can you do with these smart pads?
Sure. So if we dive into the smart pad menu here, from the home screen, you can see that as you cycle through the different smart pads, you can see what's on each one. And, you know, the initial function, you know, for the smart pads is that you can play back, you know, music, for instance. I can fade in an intro track for the start of my podcast, fade that back out. And that's really flexible because I can set that up into different playback modes. To loop, for instance, so if I had some music that I wanted to loop in the background before a live stream or before an event, you could have that on loop. I can set it up for a one shot so that if I hit it, it'll play again and again. If I've got like some fun sounds, I could even load, you know, maybe a backing track if I'm a musician and I want to play along, you know, to a beat or something like that. Another thing that I can do is just dive straight into that menu and add a new sound. This is where I can sample sounds directly on the fly. So you can see here I've got like a little recording screen. And if I want to hit record, it will record anything that goes through the unit. So whether I want to record the music from my phone for my intro, sample it straight to the unit, I can do that. Or if I just want to record maybe a conversation, if I'm setting up a call and I want to pre-record it, I just simply tap on the little record button there. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is a sound pad. As soon as I've done that, I can play it back immediately. So that's a sound pad, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I had a sound that I really wanted to trim up, I also have an editor here. So I can go through, I can trim the start. I'm getting haptic feedback when I lock that in.
Oh, no, that's
and
great.
I can also do fades. So I can fade the start and the end. So you have a really nice sound. Play that back. So it's basically a sampler as well. I can then change playback modes, loop on or off. I can have it continue or start, pause. So maybe you're doing something where you want to discuss, a piece of content and pause it every now and then and talk about it and come back. You can do that.
Yep.
Or I can set it to be a press and hold, it'll play, or a one shot, anything like that. So super flexible in terms of the audio pads. Even if I've loaded some different sounds onto the unit, for instance, I'll just set that. I'll go into like one of the standard sounds, and I can jump into, maybe this particular sample. I can edit any of these different sounds just by jumping into edit. I can change the color. Color is super simple. I just dial that and you'll see, the sound pad changing. I can lock that in. Another thing I can do on that same one is change the name or edit the sound. And, maybe I want to put a little fade on that. And then I've locked that in, So super simple to do it. It even highlights what sound pad you're editing in that setup. The next thing I can do with these smart pads is, for instance, set up voice effects.
Okay, yeah, I do love voice effects.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
It's a lot of fun. Now, these can be creative effects just for a bit of fun. They can even be things like reverbs. We have a reverb available. We have an echo available, megaphone, different robot voices, small, medium, large robot, a voice disguise, even a pitch shift. And the way that you set that up is you choose what effect. You can stack effects into each other. I could have a pitch shift with a reverb and an echo on it, all on one particular smart pad. And then I can choose what channels I want it to apply to. So I don't have to have it as a global effect. I can say I want this to only affect, channel 2 or channel 1 or all of them. Once I do that, I can, adjust using the rotary control, turn it on, and then when I press on that sound pad, I can either have it latching or momentary.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
And then you can hear straight away, that is the effect that's running.
So it's a whole lot of fun.
That's speaking of customization. I mean, I think you just sort of proved that this RØDECaster Pro 2 is just the ultimate customization machine for any kind of content creation.
I mean, if we dive even further into it, you have mixer actions. So this is where it gets really interesting. I can control the entire mixer with a bunch of different mixer actions that we have set up. So whether it's a sensor button where you want that beep every time someone, has some, flowery language, I should say.
Yeah, right.
If I want to do a global fade in, fade out, I don't even have to use the faders. I can set this up as a fade out button. I can turn that up and say I want a 4-second fade. When I hit that button, it'll fade all of the channels out, including the virtual channels. And then when I press it again, the channels will fade back in. It's not using motorized faders, it's digitally controlling the channels, which is really handy if you don't want to have to grab everything and fade it out at the end of a show.
Right.
Another thing I can do is back channel communications. So say I'm in a show and I want to be able to talk to one of the other people on my show just through their headphones without anyone else hearing it, so that I don't stop the flow of whatever's going on. Like a producer talking into in-ears.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
I can set up, okay, I want microphone 1 to talk to headphone 4. And when I press that button, what'll happen is you can see those lighting up there.
Yep.
Right? And what I'm doing now is I'm talking into my microphone. My mic is removed from the mix and I'm just talking to headphone 4. And I might say, hey, get a little bit closer to the mic, or you're rustling a little bit or something like that.
Right.
Super handy. If it's a panel talk scenario and you want to talk to somebody in their in-ears, hey, talk a little bit more about this or that. As a producer, you can do that too. Or for instance, if you have a phone call coming in and you're bringing it into a show and you want to chat to the caller before you bring their fader up, you can say, hey, welcome to the show. The host is going to bring you in a couple of minutes, just hold tight in the background.
Sure,
And you can do that, and then immediately, as soon as you release that smart pad, you're back on the show and you're talking again.
Yeah.
The other thing, the last one that you can do, because it just keeps on going,
It really does. I think you could go all day with this thing, yes.
is MIDI triggers. So I can go in and set up any of these different smart pads on any page as a MIDI trigger, either a standard or a custom MIDI message. And this is where it gets super powerful for streamers, because if you want to control OBS, for instance, this is where it's like next level. What you can do is set it up to fade to black, to switch cameras, to start, stop, anything that you want to control. You can do that with the RØDECaster Pro. And the nice thing about the fact that it's so powerful is that you can do it all simultaneously. I could trigger a sound on page 1, have that rolling, and then jump over to page 3 and start switching cameras in OBS. It's super, super, super powerful and flexible.
Yeah. What's the processor in here that can do all this?
So it's all possible because of a 1.5 gig quad core processor that we have on board, which means that not only is this incredibly powerful right away, it also, anyone who knows Rode knows that we like to improve our products over time and add additional functions, and that's also totally going to be the case with the RØDECaster Pro.
So we can expect future firmware updates to even improve the already impressive RØDECaster Pro 2.
Of course, that's how we work at Rode, and we have a whole host of different updates planned. I mean, even from about 4 to 6 weeks after the launch of the unit, you'll see some amazing things coming out. And what's really cool about that is that the RØDECaster Pro 2 has network and Wi-Fi connectivity. So not only does it have all these amazing functions, I can go into system here, network, and I can connect up to a Wi-Fi network here. And what that does is it enables me to get push firmware updates. So if you've just got this in your studio, you'll see a little notification here saying firmware update available. Download and install, or just download in the background.
So that means you don't even have to get a memory card and download and then put it in. It just does it in the unit. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as you turn it on, you can update to the latest firmware.
All right, I feel like we've barely sort of scratched the surface of what this thing can do, and let's take a little deeper dive into the menu. What else can this guy do that we haven't talked about just yet?
Sure. So if I dive in here into the menu, super simple layout, and first of all, you can see our fader assignment. So this is where I can just drag and drop, to assign faders into different positions, change the interface. If I go back and into the output options, this is where it gets really interesting. So the first menu option there, I have the ability to change the output to different sensitivity headphones. So one of the things that a lot of people would notice is if they use some low sensitivity 250 ohm headphones, they really need to crank up their headphone amps, versus using some high sensitivity earbuds, that same headphone amp might be completely crazy volume control. So we're actually customizing the gain curve of these super powerful headphone outputs to suit either the Rode NTH100s or high or low sensitivity headphones. Super easy to set up. If I go back, I can go into my multi-track options. Now, over USB to a solid state drive to the micro SD, you can record either just the stereo mix, the full, kind of processed stereo mix, or you can choose to record multi-track, which will record every single source individually. I can choose to record that pre-fader, which means that all of my fader movements aren't going to affect the mix. I'm recording the raw audio.
Oh, okay, okay.
I can choose with processing on or off. So all the processing decisions I made, I could have a recording that just has the raw tracks without all of that, or I could keep all the processing on and just have them as discrete files, or I can choose to record post-fader, meaning that if I pull a fader up or down, the file that I receive in my multi-channel recording will have those fader movements included. Another thing you can do in this menu is dive into the processing. Now this is a master processor. We have the Aphex compeller. This is what you would see at the final end of the chain before a TV broadcast or a radio broadcast, for instance, to get the levels really nice. Anyone who's ever experienced a really quiet show followed by a really loud ad break didn't have an Aphex compeller on the output, basically.
It's way too often.
That solves that problem.
Yep.
A really nice, master compressor. The other thing we have is an output delay. Anyone streaming would know that video is almost every single time slower than audio because it's got to process maybe through a vision switch or all that kind of stuff. What you can do on the RØDECaster Pro is delay the output so you can get your audio and video sync perfect just using this menu. Next, what we have in here is the ability to change the recording options. I can record to a broadcast WAV file.
Yes, okay.
Or I can record to MP3, for instance, if I want to just use this as a backup and have loads and loads and loads of recording.
Sure, yeah.
I can even change the monitor output so that they automatically mute as soon as I bring up one of the microphone channels in the studio. So any professional radio studio will always have speakers inside the studio playing the audio live all the
Right.
time, except when they're using mics, because you don't want feedback. So what you can do on the unit is that when a fader comes up, the audio monitors mute. When you pull the fader down, they come back alive so you can listen to your music without the audio running. I can even set that to a fixed output level. And you can see the rotary control is now no longer green because I'm not actively controlling the output level.
Right, okay.
So that's just some of the options that we have there. That's on the outputs. I then have the options to customize the display, change the metering to broadcast metering, so I can see everything. You know, if you're in a professional, kind of radio setup, you'd always want to look at broadcast metering, showing your dB full scale clipping. Not necessary for most users to dive into that. I can change the brightness of the screen, the brightness of the buttons in their lit or unlit state, the active or inactive state. You can really customize everything. And that is where we also dive into shows.
Yes, okay. This is how you can designate how you save your shows and create presets
Yes.
almost to when you start your show, right?
Exactly. So one of the things that we wanted to do with the RØDECaster Pro 2 is obviously being so customizable to the user. We know that most content creators don't just do one thing. You know, most people that are a podcaster also want to maybe use this for the audio for their Skype calls. Most people that are a musician might be a gamer as well. And that requires a different setup. So you can save all of this into a show. What the show does is, for one, it'll store all of your recordings into a particular folder, but it also remembers all of the settings, all of the sounds, all of the presets, and I could have as many shows as I want. So I might have 3 different podcast setups where I have a different guest arrangement, all with a different fader assignment. Or I might have a podcast during the day and at night I'm gaming and streaming. I just simply load up my other show, game setup, and immediately the unit will completely change the channel assignment to the last setting that you saved.
Wow. Yeah. That's that saves a lot of time and a lot of stress.
It certainly does.
You're ready to roll, absolutely.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, there's so many more things I could dive into, but
Well, if you do, they might turn the lights off.
yeah, I think so.
Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Real pleasure. It's one heck of a machine here. This is truly the quintessential all-in-one audio solution from Rhodes, the RØDECaster Pro 2. I'm Jake with B&H. Just keep rolling.